supporters, amazing, great to see all the faces. My name is Adnan Jaber. I come from Jerusalem, proud husband of Michal Greenfield. I moved to here 1 year ago, and I'm proud supporter, member of Standing Together Los Angeles supporters community. I'm on the steering committee. What is Standing Together? It's a grassroots, progressive movement mobilizing Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel to end the war, to end the occupation, for peace, equality, and justice for all. Great. Fun fact, this is the first synagogue of Los Angeles. I'm great to have. We're having actually the person who runs this place, Greg, he's gonna come and say a word about this place. Yes.
Alan, Shalom. That's not the neighborhood. That's all great. So you're sitting in the oldest synagogue in Los Angeles, the third or fourth oldest left of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi. We're a nonprofit called the Pico Union Project, and we are home to a synagogue. We are home to 2 churches. We're home to some of the coolest, most wonderful people. Wow. Most wonderful people in the city. The mean income of people who live in this community is $22,000 per household. And our job is ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your neighbor as you would wish to be loved. And that is why I'm so proud and honored to be able to host this evening. I believe that the only way forward is not just to love our neighbor, but to know our neighbor and then make a choice going from there. So thank you for coming. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. And if you have a minute and you haven't introduced yourself to a neighbor sitting next to you, if you could just take 1 minute and say why you got here, how you got here, you might be surprised at who you meet. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. I'm excited. The audience is excited. Prayers of the mothers. You're gonna say one word. You sing it? I'm just introducing it. Okay, so on the menu tonight, we have 3 speakers, 1 panel, 1 short clip, and amazing atmosphere. We're gonna kick it off with a song by our amazing musicians, a song called Prayer of the Mothers. Let it be.
לחישת רוח ים מנשבת מאי שם וכביסה מתנפנפת בצילי החומה بين الأرض والسماء ناس كتير بعيشوا سوا ما تخافوا تحلموا بالسلام والأمان متى يمسوا خمات البحر فشفتي ميقالوتي يبتخوا شعاي الهدف هامتي يلا تنام يلا تنام كانت بحلى دايم همان روح يا همان لا تعذب بضحك آتف الغمام قادم سوخ ما تبخر ושבתי מגלותי יפתחו שעריי אל הטוב האמיתי From the north to the south, from the west to the east, hear the prayers of the mothers. Bring them peace, bring them peace. From the north to the south, from the west to the east, hear the prayers of the mothers. Bring them peace, bring them peace. Bring the prayer of the mothers. Bring them peace, bring them peace.
Wow, thank you so much. Hagar and Afefa on vocals, Mikey on the oud, Livia on the percussion, Janice on the violin, and Nadav on the guitar. Thank you so much. Now, we're having my great friend, Naya Yassin. Naya recently came to Los Angeles. She's a newcomer, a Palestinian Israeli. And I wonder why Naya is here tonight. She's gonna tell us. Please, Naya, come.
Hello, everyone. My name is Naya Reed Yassin. I am a product designer, an artist, aspiring businesswoman, starting my own design agency with my partner. So hit me up after this. But I'm also a Palestinian Israeli. Up until last year, one of the most difficult questions you could ask me wasn't about what I think of Palestine, Israel, government here, government there. There's a lot more simple. It was, where are you from? You know, for most people, it's a simple question that gives them the opportunity to self-affirm, to maybe even take pride, feel pride. For me, it was like a game of diplomacy. It depending on who I'm talking to. Once I get that question, I'll do a quick analysis of who's in front of me. Who are they? What do they need from me? What would make them comfortable? What would make them uncomfortable? And I base my answer on that. So I was everything from Palestinian to Palestinian Israeli to Jewish American to sometimes even Latina. Some people, you know, they'll take it. My first adult memory of playing this game of masking was in 2014 during Tsukitan. I was in Jerusalem doing a program that was also for Palestinians and Israelis. And I was trying to go to one of the villages around Jerusalem. And so I walked out of the wrong exit from Jerusalem University, and I ended up in one of the main bus stations where everywhere around me it was a big crowd of Orthodox Jews. And I say that to give context of, at the time in Jerusalem, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of violence going back and forth, and you really didn't know who is gonna do what, when, on either side. So as a young 15-year-old girl, I was scared. And I looked around me and I was like, my phone's about to die, my parents are not with me, it's my first time being stuck in Jerusalem. What do I do? So I started walking around the crowd, listening to people talk, and I could hear this lady speaking a very American accent. And I was like, yep, that's her. I got her. So I went to her, and I said, hi, you know, I just came from the U.S., and I'm lost, and I'm trying to go here, but I don't know which bus to take, yada, yada. She's like, oh, like, what are you doing here? And I could tell that she assumed that I was Jewish. And I didn't correct her, because at that time, it felt easier. My most recent memory of masking was last night. Me and a couple of friends here were trying to make mhalabiye, but we didn't have rose water, and there's nowhere to get it in WeHo. It's weird. But I go into this liquor shop, and I'm asking the guy if he has it, and right away he's like, wait, what do you want it for? Like, that's an Arab thing. And I was like, yep, I'm Arab. So he was Syrian, and he started talking to me in Arabic, and he's like, where are you from? And I said, I'm Palestinian. And in this case, I didn't lie, I didn't mask, I just admitted one part of it. The truth is still fully there. But I also can tell what assumptions he could make in his head. And he asked me, how are things in Palestine? I was like, you know? And we had a lovely conversation. And I really liked him. I'll probably go back. You know, he's in my neighborhood. So it's my first time public speaking. I'm trying to remember the... I don't know when I realized that my identity was this controversial or that I was an oxymoron. I just know that one day I was a kid being a kid, and the next strangers were upset or uncomfortable when I answered them where I'm from in a very naive kid way, not knowing what the game was being played there. And I'm aware that my identity is rooted in contradiction, in controversy. But, and to, you know, when people ask me, what does it mean to be Palestinian Israeli? I honestly don't know. I don't know what it means to be Palestinian Israeli. I can't explain the full scope and nuance of that. I just know that when I look in the mirror, I see her. I see a Palestinian Israeli, and I exist, and my parents exist, and my community exists. And last year was a big awakening for me. Going from this game of masking and having a roster of different answers to finally feeling the power to reclaim that, to finally being able to come on a stage and say, I am Palestinian Israeli. And everything that comes with it, the good and the bad. And I only speak for myself because I don't want to generalize this experience for everyone, especially the Palestinians, Israeli back home, because we are very diverse and nuanced, and people have their own lived experience with that. But nonetheless, we do exist, and we live in Israel. But we're... my conclusion for this, I was hung up on it for a long time, because I believe we are part of the solution. How and how much, I don't know. But the fact that we have this access to both sides, the fact that we're able to reject extreme narratives and able to see or be an example of coexistence, another buzzword that I know is also very loaded. But we are an example of that. And I guess this is to say that after 26 years of this very long, tiring game of where I'm from and where I'm not, I feel like it is my responsibility now to claim it as I am doing now, because that's the first step to, I guess, making the solution real, one way or the other, somehow. That was the end of it.
Wow, authentic voice. How brave. I love that. I'm learning from her. Okay. Now, for the second speaker for the night, we have my great other friend, Daniel Brawl. Please, Daniel. Daniel is a writer on Israel, the conflict, and coexistence. He's an anti-Semitism educator and a peace activist. And Daniel, please.
Good evening. I want to share with you a little bit about why I believe so deeply in the possibility of peace and collaboration. And it has to do with, ironically enough, Iran. I am a descendant of Jews who proclaimed their Jewishness in quasi-tolerant territory, consequences be damned. My paternal grandfather, Musa, was a pharmacist by trade, but became the only Jewish member of parliament serving at the time in pre-revolution Iran because of strict Jewish quotas as the representative to the entire Jewish community. Now, even with the weight of the welfare of the entire Jewish community on his shoulders and the attention that came with being a black sheep, my grandfather was mission-driven for all Iranians. And it was a service of this small but mighty Iranian Jew that was ultimately rewarded by the Shah, the king, Mohammad Reza, with the royal medal. And it's that inheritance, which is why I take Muslim-Jewish coexistence personally, even though I'm not naive about its challenges. I work with a diverse group of progressive Jews at an organization called Project Shema, where we focus on addressing contemporary anti-Semitism with an emphasis on how implicit bias affects conversations about Israel and Palestine. But what underpins our philosophy is the conviction that empathy for Muslims and Palestinians is part and parcel of the same for Jews and Israelis. That is what powers our dialogue. Now, at a time when people are fed a heavy diet of unconditional solidarity with their side, we promote cross-communal dialogue, as unsettling as it might be, because there is liberation in engaging despite our disagreements. There is no such thing as 100% ideological alignment. In fact, what we all know, all of us here tonight, is that expecting ideological uniformity as a prerequisite to allyship and collaboration is a delusion that impairs our ability to see the bigger picture. We know that genuine personal connections can be sparked when our conversations aren't agenda-driven and strict adherence to message discipline isn't enforced. We might find that we identify with the person's lived experience so that instead of seeing an adversary on the other side, we see a partner. And that's why I'm a proud ally and a partner of Standing Together. Because even though the media does a terrific job of magnifying the extremes on all sides, which creates a false sense of unbridgeable division and reinforces the notion that this conflict is beyond resolution, all of us here tonight know and are a part of a collective of people that occupy the center of the Venn diagram. And what ultimately binds people in this center of the Venn diagram is an understanding that Israelis and Palestinians lack the luxury to be prisoners of scarcity mentality, right? Regardless of external pressures, all of us here tonight know and should remain anchored by the realization of the two peoples' shared fate. There will be no exodus of Israelis or Palestinians from the Holy Land. And that sobering realization should put everything into sharp focus. Trivial differences should be shelved in order to build partnerships that can graduate into political change. Because insisting on our own exclusive righteousness only inflames division, perpetuates the unjust status quo, and benefits those in power who benefit from it. So for every person screaming that there are no innocents in Gaza, or that every Israeli is a settler, we are here tonight to demonstrate that we can center both people's humanity. Because ultimately we know that there is no salvation for one without salvation for the other. The people should not pay for the sins of their leaders. The people want peace. And no matter how patronized the word peace has become, or how we are called naive for still insisting on it and believing in it, it's not us who are naive, but the people who surrender to the cynic's insistence that we are fated to live and die by the sword. And look at the alternative. Human beings held hostage, people dying and starving, families grieving and hopeless. So all of us here are proof tonight that being pro-Israeli does not mean you are inherently anti-Palestinian and vice versa. We can make room for the other's narrative without sacrificing our own. Because peace requires partners, right? And for peace to be made at the top, it has to start at the grassroots. And that's the beauty of Standing Together, making peace at the grassroots. Because we all know that there is abundance in the land of milk and honey. Thank you.
Okay, for the main course of the night, we're having the stars of the night, the co-directors of Standing Together, Rula Daood and Alon-Lee Green. Thank you so much. And, yeah, stage is ready. You can start coming up. And They're going to be questioned, interviewed, paneled by the amazing Zahra Sakijha, a Palestinian, wholeheartedly volunteer. She's on the steering committee of the supporters community here in Los Angeles, and she's going to medical school. Doctor to be Zahra. With her, Maya Ben Yair, Israeli, community member, creative writer, and she works for Netflix. Netflix? Okay, great, thank you. Do you need the mic? Yes. I can pass this.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, in the meantime, while we figure out the technical difficulties, wow, thank you, Adnan, and huge thank you to Rula Daood and Alon-Lee Green, these incredible, fearless leaders who have been on a long tour across the US, speaking. I think this is your 21st speaking engagement, this tour. Unbelievable. We're going to put you through the ringer for some more questions. I'm sure you're tired, but we got an amazing list of questions submitted from our community. Thank you for those of you who submitted your questions. And we did our best to kind of summarize the key themes and topics that mean the most to you, and that we can have Rula and Alon-Lee really emphasize what's important to the movement right now.
Does that work? Cool. I also want to take this opportunity before we dive in, other than thank the two of you so much for being here with us, is to thank the Friends of Standing Together of Los Angeles who have put all of this incredible event together with us. So a huge round of applause. None of this could have happened without that huge team effort. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you. Shall we dive in?
Let's dive in. Does this work now? Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so let's go back in time for a moment. We know you as the fearless leaders of the Standing Together movement, but we want to hear a little bit more about what brought you to this work. And was there a specific moment in your life where you felt called to become an activist?
Okay. So, wow, you can hear me. So, yeah. First of all, thank you for coming. And I do want to start by saying something different. We usually start by saying very depressing things. This is our last event. This will be the last day for us in the US. We're going back home tomorrow. Having a tour and talking to thousands of people and having a lot of meetings, it takes a lot of energy. And when we get into our room, we feel that people see in us a lot of hope, and they kind of want to reach out and take a lot of the energy that we have. And it happens, and we understand it is the way this works. But tonight, you filled us with energy. This is the first event that, just to be honest, we've had many events, good events, great people, but today we came here a bit tired and weak, but seeing you, the energy in here, listening to you, to what you have said and what you have said, and the beautiful music filled us with a lot of energy, and it's great to have that at the last day, and maybe it will give us power to have 2 more weeks in here, but we won't. So I want to say thank you for this evening, really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. And now I will go to the depressing stuff. So I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna tell the whole story of how I became an activist and part of Standing Together, because it is long. But I will say that, being a Palestinian Israeli or a Palestinian citizen of Israel, or whatever how people say and identify themselves, it is not easy. We are grown up in homes that are not political. our parents don't want us to be political. I was born to a father and a mother that lived through the martial laws in Israel, in North Israel, where they lived through years where they had no rights, nothing at all. So for their kids to speak about politics is something that they very much are afraid of. But when you grow up and you go out of your city, your village, I grew up in Kufr Yasif, which is in the north of Israel. When we go out of our homes and our bubbles, we meet the Israeli society. We meet the hegemonic society, the Jews, the Israeli Jews. And in many situations, there is racism, there is persecution in the smallest things. It can be by giving my name to when I get coffee and then somebody will make a joke because it's a very Arabic name, or by trying to rent an apartment in Jaffa or Tel Aviv and nobody would rent me because I am an Arab. And it can be also at school, at university, in a job, and in many different places. But for me, many things accumulated, small events of racism. But the peak of all of that happened when I finished my first degree. I am a speech pathologist, and I wanted to travel because I hadn't traveled for like 12 years, 13 years, and I worked hard because we work hard back home because Israel is a very expensive place to live in. So I bought a ticket. My brother bought me a ticket to Italy, and I came to the airport, and we Palestinians know that there is a very different line of questioning when you get to the airport. But for me, it wasn't just a different line of questioning, it was taking me also to a different room to have a random check, security check, and to be asked to strip off my clothes. Yes. And there was me, someone who just finished the first degree, don't really have a lot of money, and all I wanted is to just travel and to see something before I go back home and start my real life. And it was a moment where I understood deeply how the country I live in, the system I really live in, sees me. And I was a threat, but I was nothing. I was just somebody 26 years old who wanted to travel. And something switched in that very humiliating moment in my life and made me understand, what do I really want to do? What kind of reality do I want to live in? Do I want to keep on being, silenced, or do I step up and do something? But don't get me wrong, I went to Italy for 3 weeks, I had fun, I came back, okay? And then in 2000, after a few years, many years that I was a speech therapist, came the war of 2014 on Gaza. And that war changed my life, because I saw how people can be stripped of their humanity without really caring about who dies and why people do really die. And I started looking for a political place to be part of. And in Jerusalem was the first time I met standing together in the beginning of 2017, at the beginning of the movement, and something spoke to me. It was the first movement that had both Arabs and Palestinians, Jews and Palestinians, had people speaking in both languages, had a very brave woman leading a movement into a demonstration, and it made a change in my heart. And I understood that this is the political home I want to be part of. And since 2017, the beginning of 2017, I stopped being a speech pathologist, and I started being an activist in Standing Together, and for the past few years being the national co-director also of the movement. So this is my story of how I became political, and it's few people in our society that choose, and I say choose because it is, a choice. They choose to become political because we want to make a difference. We want to change something. So thank you.
Hi everyone. First of all, I am losing my voice. After these 21 events, I woke up this morning without a voice, so let's hope it works until the end of this evening. I can crash, no, not crash in the plane tomorrow. No planes crashing, please. But I can, be a bit sick in the plane. I wanted to start maybe by saying, first of all, before talking about myself, that we're here in the US for almost 2 weeks, talking with thousands of people, meeting physically a lot of communities and leaders and organizations. First of all, and before everything, to call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza right now, to stop the killing, to stop the starvation, to stop the destruction, to release the 100 hostages that are still there in Gaza, and to move forward away from this bloody moment, this terrible moment that we are suffering for 14 months. This is the reason we are here. And we are not only here to say what we don't want to see and what we want to prevent in reality, we're here also to call for Israeli-Palestinian peace as the only solution forward. And it is something that is very important for us to say, yes, we are a Palestinian and a Jew, Jews and Palestinians in Israel that are working together, but we're doing it for a political reason, for a political change we want to see in our society. So I'm Alon-Lee. I was born to a very small family in Tel Aviv, my single mom and my twin brother, identical twin brother. And we grew up with a mom that was struggling financially. I think my first political memory that I didn't know to call it political, but really shaped me, was that my school decided to take us to a yearly trip on the 6th grade. And it was a 2 days trip to the southern city of Eilat in the Red Sea. And you get to be excited because you're gonna spend the night with your friends away from home. You're gonna get to Eilat, which can be a very beautiful city. And then the day before the trip, my teacher calls my name in front of the entire class. And she said that if my mom is not going to bring the payment to the trip until tomorrow morning, I'm not gonna get on the bus. And I remember being ashamed, embarrassed, looking at her eyes, but actually understanding everyone is looking at me, feeling that I have no control over this reality. I didn't choose it, feeling that it's not fair. And a lot of moments like this came to my childhood, came and was part of my growing up. When I was already 17, in my last year of high school, I started working to help at home. And what do you do when you're like in the 12th grade and you want to work? You go and work in a cafe or in the dining industry. And I started working in a place that was part of a big chain in Israel of coffee shops. And in this industry in Israel, and I'm sure it's here as well the same, the laws that are granting your rights, your labor rights, are basically just a recommendation, right? We worked extra hours and the law says that we need to get paid extra for that. We worked on Shabbat and the law says you need to get paid extra for that, but none of this was paid for us. And I remember coming to my boss after a few months working there, telling him, listen, I know the law, right? I know what I deserve to get, it's the law. And you don't pay this to us. And he said, listen, this is how we do things here. If you don't want to work in this condition, cross the street and go and work in a different cafe. But I didn't. I unionized the workers instead and build. Thank you. And together with good friends there, we built the first union of the dining industry in Israel. And it got me fired very quickly. But we didn't give up and we took them to court, which brought me back with a court's order to work in this cafe, which is not the nicest thing to come back in a place that just fired you a second ago. But we led a strike. We led a strike of 6 weeks, and it resulted with us winning. The owner of this chain, which is an American chain from here, from California, it's called the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. Oh, wow. Usually, if I will say it, no one will know it, but in California, you do. Sababa. The owner flew all the way from California to Israel. He fired the Israeli CEO, and he signed a collective agreement with us, which became the first collective agreement of this industry in Israel. And I think this really was the first moment where I felt I do have control. I do have control over what is not fair in my reality. maybe I can change things. And I think two things amazed me or clicked back then. One was this understanding that it's not just me doing something. It's me and other people in the same reality that I am in, doing something together. I did not know, what's the word of community organizing and how I will be deeply involved in it through the rest of my life until today, but it clicked. And the second thing was that one of the 5 union members, the leaders of this struggle, his name was Nazir Taha. He was a Palestinian citizen of Israel living in the city of Jaljulia. And we were 400 workers in this train in Israel. And it was amazing to me that he somehow got to be the leader of almost 99% of Jewish workers that went with him to a strike and with all of us. And they trusted him to lead them. Even though we come from very different realities, maybe they don't have the beliefs of thinking that he should be equal in Israel. But together we striked and we worked together shoulder to shoulder. And this was the beginning of, a world of believing that Jews and Palestinians in Israel can change the society together. And that's what brought me to standing together.
So I think it's incredibly evident that the work you've been doing from the union till now is incredibly impactful. I can speak for myself that it has been the single thing that was able to sort of move from paralysis and despair to it's still there, but also with a really palpable sense of hope and solution. And a testament for that is that, congratulations, you recently were selected for Time Magazine's 100 Next Most Influential Leaders of 2024. I know you love talking about it. What did this recognition mean to you and the movement?
Well, when people say it in here, I will tell you what happened. Somebody emailed Alon-Lee. It was like the Times, next something, and we thought they wanted to have an interview with us. But then we got an email that we are selected for, the next 100 leaders, and we didn't really understand what was happening. But then one morning, somebody from the movement told us, you have to take a picture because you've been elected for the next 100 leaders. So we're like really tired after a demonstration, and we look, to be honest, this year we look 10 years older, and we weren't really satisfied in how we looked, but we went out and we took a picture, and we looked like awful, and they took that picture, and we've seen it on the magazine, and that is what it really did to us. I mean, it is a huge honor to be recognized for, work and to take what you've been doing, as an individual, but as a movement also, and to talk about in different places. But deep inside, we are still very much, uncomfortable when people say that. But it is, it is a great recognition of what we are doing also as a movement. But back home, did it do anything for us? I don't know. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But it is still, it is an honor to be recognized as people who are doing something at a period that is one of the darkest, like for many people who are back home. So yes, I would like to change that photo, but we can't do that.
So in the US, you may have noticed that there's somewhat of a war of words in the rhetoric about Israel-Palestine. People tend to get caught up in abstract intellectual discussions that can be really difficult to bridge. When do you find the discourse to be helpful, and when has it been unproductive? And are there any strategies that you would recommend for us as we talk to our communities and families who may be entrenched in a one-sided narrative?
Well, this is of course our favorite topic, right? The war that you have right here. I mean, it's been tough. It has been tough because when we came here just after the war, and then again 7 or 8 months ago, it was extremely tough to feel the pain of communities, sometimes families, that cannot speak to each other, that cannot build something together, that cannot see each other or can see beyond the narrative or the language they decided to build a trench and to really dig inside. And it was also very devastating for us to understand that even though you're facing dangers of your own, that you need to organize for your own sakes, that you need to be able to build power to block the terrible politicians and people that are coming for your communities, for your rights, for what you have built for so many years. And that this issue, our land back home, the occupation, the war, our lives actually, are standing in between of this ability to build the power you need and to unite your communities to fight the fight that you need to do here. It's heartbreaking, it's devastating. And we come here also with a message that if we, back home, in this darkest time, in this reality of facing threats and seeing death all day and having rivers of blood running in our land and having persecution of our government and feeling that our lives and communities are pushed strongly into different directions, if we are able to stand together, to speak with each other, to think together, to imagine together, to act together, it should not be that difficult for you guys to do it here, right? It shouldn't. And you live in a country that you're safe in, right? You're much safer here. And I think that a lot of times, and maybe I will bring it to our perspective, a lot of times only when we step outside of Israel and Palestine, right? People will come to us and we say, but why aren't you using this word? How come you're using this terminology? You're saying this, you're calling this reality in this name? And for us, it's very foreign, right? Because in Israel and back home in Palestine, in the land itself, it's easy to describe the reality. It's easy to, know what we experience. And here sometimes people care more about the words that we do, that we use or not use, than the actions that we actually do and the campaigns and struggles on the ground. And in some events, it's amazing, but we can go through a full event, the beginning at least, and it could be very hostile, and people will ask, what's your position on this and that? 1 state or 2 states? And we will go through the entire event, and people will not ask us once, but how actually do you do what you do? What is the mechanism? How do you organize? What do you do when you get up in the morning? And it seems as if people forget that the point is not to condemn reality and then choose maybe the sharpest words we can, the strongest terminology, the most pointed language. The point is not to condemn reality, but it is to change reality. And when we need to change reality, we need to ask ourselves, what is the change we want to see? How, right? We need to bother ourselves with the question of how are we going to create this change? Strategy, right? How am I moving from where I'm sitting right now to the end of this room? I cannot jump to the end. I need to have some steps on the way, right? I need to maybe have some people walking with us in order to get to this goal that we're drawing. And these are the things that we are bothering, this responsibility we take upon ourselves. And I understand sometimes people care more about speaking about the reality, being able to feel that I can speak without the mic, right? No, I maybe this is why I'm losing my voice, right? But people really, I understand why they want to feel that they are sharing the language and sharing the description of what they are witnessing and see. But this is a moment of great distress, of great need, of big change back in our land, in our homes. And this is why we need to be able to get messy, to make our hands dirty, and to be able to move people from where they are and to meet them also where they are, to take them with us. And this is the point of standing together. It is a Jewish Palestinian grassroots movement that tries to bring the Palestinian community and the Jewish community from wherever they are and to create a change together. And this necessarily means we need to work together and not just speak about the reality.
So I want us to focus a little bit about this shift from condemning reality to changing reality. And look at action as really that opposite of rhetoric or the antidote to rhetoric. Could you tell us a little bit about the work that Standing Together is doing on the ground, on the land, with people?
Was it a planned question, or you're just adding it now because?
I've heard a few podcasts.
Take a rest. Yes, I do want to just add to what Alon-Lee has said. It is the thing that we most need right now, and I do think it's also a question you were going to ask me, but it is important to understand the thing that people really need right now is for other people to act, means taking action. It is so easy to sit down in rooms, in cafes, in homes, in universities, and speak about what's happening to us. But it's so difficult to really take an action. And we need you to take the difficult side of it and to take an action, to understand what are the steps that are needed by you that can affect our reality. Because whatever happens here, especially in the US, affects our home very much. So we need you to take an action. Okay? Please do remember that, because it's easier to get into conversations and not to agree and to get out of the room. But then you go back to your homes and it's nice and it's cozy. But we go back to our home where there is a war and hostages. So remember, we need you to take action. Now, how do we do it back home? The grassroots movement work is not just to stand in solidarity with one another, because we do that all the time. A grassroots movement real goal is to have a partnership and to have goals and to understand what kind of struggles do we lead in order to have a different society, to build on a different paradigm, to be really living in a place where we can say eventually both of us are equal. Because it is true, Standing Together is a grassroots movement of both Jews and Palestinians. And this is a partnership between both of us, but it's not in an equal system. The system we live in sees us in a very different way. So our work must be a work of not just solidarity, but understanding what do we need to do in order to be in an equal place. So since the 7th of October, after that day, when many of us woke up to sirens, saw what was happening at the south, understanding that the retaliation of our government on the people in Gaza is going to be so huge, we understood that we needed to do something different. Our government is still saying the same things that it was saying before. We have ministers, crazy, lunatic, people who have genocidal ideas, and they are executing a lot of them right now. And we understood that we needed to bring a different voice, not just to be in solidarity, but to be able to hold an alternative to the people who are living on the land. So 3 days after the 7th of October, we stood up and we said, we need a deal. We know what's going to happen. We need a deal. We need a political discourse that's different from the one our government is holding. We went out to the streets. We couldn't really protest at the first 2 months because the government wouldn't let us, because a government will not let its people demonstrate against it at times of war. So we had solidarity conventions. We brought people together to speak about what's happening and to understand what are the next steps that we need to do. There was a huge persecution within our society, the Palestinian society, especially students and everyone who would say something about what the government was doing. So we opened an emergency line to help students who were persecuted, to help workers who were fired from their place of work just because they said, my heart is with the kids of Gaza. Not just that, we went out to the streets demanding a a ceasefire, a hostage deal, an end to this war, and we are still going week after week after week. But we also understand that we need to make a change in the political discourse back home. And we also know that we are not the people that the mainstream media wants to put in front. And they would not invite us to talk about a ceasefire, to talk about the solution, which is an Israeli-Palestinian peace. So we decided, many months after, because we were not even allowed, to go on with a billboard campaign. Just before we arrived here, we bought 200 billboard campaigns, and we put them in major cities back home. And in these billboards, we had pictures of the destruction in Gaza, the kids who are starving in Gaza, and yes, pictures of people who came back killed from Gaza. And what we spoke about is, we try to show people who is really benefiting from this war. People are dying in a very different scale. There is no symmetry, but people are dying at this war. And we need to understand, what do we need to do now in order to stop what's happening? All of the actions we've had since the 7th of October were not actions of solidarity. There were actions to try and build a political power within the people, within the society that we live in, so we can achieve a different discourse, so we can have more people with us, and we can grow in much and bigger power, so we can push as people towards our politicians to demand from them a different discourse. Because the only ones that are speaking right now in a very high, loud voice are the right messianic people in the government who just want to conquer more land, to put more settlements in the north of Gaza, to conquer more in Syria and more in Lebanon. But we demand something different. So in the actions we took in the streets, we show people that we can hold a different discourse. We can speak of different politics. And actually, we've been growing since the 7th of October. We had more people coming with us. Today, standing together, we have 6,000 paying members to the movement. We have 12 chapters, local chapters of activists working daily in Standing Together, being part of Standing Together. We have 14 student chapters in different campuses, which means Standing Together is the biggest organized student force within campuses. And this is huge, especially at times of war. And all of this happened not because we stood in solidarity with one another, but because we went out to the streets and we understood that we need to take action to stop what's happening and to bring a different political will and force into our society.
So you talked a little bit about doing that through action and also bringing a new story, telling a new story. What stories or deeply rooted beliefs do Palestinians and Israelis hold that you'd like to demystify or replace with a new story?
You mean back home or here? Back home? No, we do usually answer one by one to give each one. But look, we are born. I think, for us at least, we've known only Bibi Netanyahu as a prime minister. There was small times where somebody else really was there, but it is Bibi Netanyahu forever. This is the prime minister we always had. And we also were born into a reality that people think that on the other side, there is no partner. If you would go out to the street, and it is still something people really believe deeply, if you ask a Palestinian, when we talk about peace, the first question people ask us, peace with whom? It is a very common thing because people back home haven't had any kind of leadership on both sides in the last 20, 25 years, a leadership that speaks of an alternative that is in the benefit of the people living in Israel, Palestine. We've been going from one war to another war to another war to another war. So to believe that there is a partner on the other side, it is something that has to be deeply, convincing and actions to make people understand, yes, there is a partner on the other side. And right now, after the 7th of October, no, this belief had become stronger. People don't really think that there might be something different, such as peace, and nobody is really offering people peace right now. But we believe, again, politics and life is also a competition. And we need to put somehow a competition to those people who are speaking of there's no other, solutions. We will always be in wars and wars and wars. So what we are trying to change right now is to tell people that the only solution right now that we can really have is not going back to the way it was before the 7th of October, because many people understand that the status quo can't be maintained anymore. We can't go back to the same place. The real question is, what do we offer our people right now? Are we offering more wars on that region, more killing, more deaths? Or are we offering a solution that can bring the people who are living on our land, on our home, security, safety, peace, and yes, independence? And for us to have all of these things, we need to understand that the beginning is by stopping this war, ending it, ending the occupation on the West Bank, rebuilding Gaza and rebuilding our lives, the people living in Israel and Palestine, and yes, going into a Israeli-Palestinian peace, because this is the only way we can stop the cycle of everything that's happening to all of us. And that is a work we are trying to do daily in many ways, and hoping that, I do believe, you can also help by holding that discourse, by saying it, by talking about it. It can also bring us more space to work back home.
I am a Jewish citizen of Israel. And from my perspective, I think one of the toughest things to convince my fellow Jewish people on the land, my community, my people, is that trauma and the pain that we carry with us, it is not exclusive to us. And that if I am in distress, if we are in a place of fear, it can also mean, and we must see it, that other people next to us, sometimes in the same building than us, in the same city, and of course on the same land, can also hold the same fear, the same trauma, or many different versions of it. And it is extremely tough, extremely challenging to meet this notion, this feeling of, if I'm wounded right now, if I'm afraid, if I suffered something, if we as Jewish people on the land just paid some kind of a price, then it means that we are the only ones, and that no one else is even entitled to say something, to raise their voice, to be in a position of calling for help. And this zero-sum game is devastating. This belief that only we can feel this pain is something that can bring us to lose our humanity, something that can bring us to not see each other even in our own communities, to be numb or blind to the suffering of others, because when you don't train this muscle of being able to feel, being able to see, being able to be part of the hardships of your land, then you lose this muscle also towards your own people. And our country is a tough country, not only because of the occupation, not only because of the violence between Palestinians and Jews. It is also tough when workers go to work every day for a full month and they still get salaries that are not respected enough to provide to their families. And I think it is very important for us to build this movement that is coming to the people and suggests a very, very simple understanding. We are all in this reality together, and we all have what to lose, and we are all losing in different degrees We're not playing the game of symmetry because we know some people lose much more than me as a Jewish person. I know that. I'm not paying the highest price. But as much as we all lose from this reality right now together, we can all benefit from a change in the same way. We can all have a wonderful, wonderful land and country or countries together. We can have equality. We can have freedom. We can have really, social justice in our country. And this is what we have to gain. And this is what we have to fight for together. Because if we do it separately, we will never win. If we will not see each other and the pain of the other, we will only continue to dwell in our own pain and will never be able to move away from it.
So, Rula, you mentioned peace. And Alon-Lee, you mentioned the pain, the trauma, the suffering. I think that the two are interesting when put together. It made me think of maybe one of the first political memories from growing up as a little kid in the 90s. And I have actual memories of people who are able to dream about peace, who are able to have real conversations about peace as a practical, solution or a possibility in our lifetime. And then we're thinking, about our reality, our complex reality today, with whether post October 7th and even before it, where the hate and the divide are just getting deeper. So with that, I wanted to ask you, do you ever have, sort of personal doubts in the mission that you're fighting for? And and do you ever struggle to believe that what the peace that you're fighting for, the kind of future that you're fighting for, is possible? And then how do you pick yourself up from those?
When you spoke about the 90s, it just resonated so strongly. Because I also grew up in Tel Aviv in the 90s, where buses exploded, and where my mom didn't allow my brother and me to go on a bus. We needed to walk for 12 years. Since the 90s, I was a child before starting school. We were never allowed to go on a bus, and we always walked 25 minutes to school and back. And I was born actually on the day that the first Intifada broke. I had my bar mitzvah around the second Intifada. I only know, as Rula said, Netanyahu is prime minister. He was there already in the 90s, right? And this is our reality, right? I do remember also my grandmother and mother telling me that when I was really a child, that until you grow up, you will not need to go to the army. You probably also know this. There will be peace. Until you grow up, until you're 18. Well, it didn't come, right? And I think that this reality can bring you to so many points of despair, of feeling that this is the only thing this land can suggest to us, right? That the only thing it can give to us. More death, more blood, more people that that are losing their lives, more, of this future. And I think the conversation around us, in our generation right now in Israel, is very clear, and it is to immigrate out of the country. Every sane young person will lie if they don't have it in their mind. Will lie. It is, in some ways, the reasonable thing to do, right? If you can get a way out, and you have easier life somewhere else, so why not? But we also know something else very deep inside that picks you up and maybe even brings you to a very convicted kind of feeling. And we know that we don't have another home. It's crazy. A lot of our grandparents came from different places, but right now, when you're born there, when this is your reality, and this is your tough reality, it is still your only home. Whether you're Palestinian or you're Jewish, it is your only possible home. And when people are trying to tell us, corrupted leaders, people that care only about their own power or families or minority that they represent, the 5% of settlers that are only 5% of our society, but somehow hold the entire political system in Israel with a lot of power, when they try to come and tell us that we have no choice, that kacha ze in Hebrew, that's how it is, no other way. There's a zero-sum game. There's a very simple, equation. If you want to be safe, you need to control them. You need to send your soldiers, our soldiers, to their villages. You need to build walls to the sky and barriers to the ground. You need to have another war, and another war, and another war. 15 wars in a decade and a half. You need to treat them as if they are not humans, because you and your blood are worth more than them. And they tell you that. But this conviction that you have brings me and brings us to know that if it is our only home in the world, the only place we can call home, we have to fight for it and to flip this equation, to fight for a different reality, because their reality, their equation, it did not bring us any safety. They tell us that they need to control people so we will be safe. But when we control people, we can never be safe. The reason for all the violence, for all the hatred, for all the explosions and fire and blood that we have in the country is because we have a reality that we never solved, a reality where people are not free, people are not equal, people cannot live their lives. And until we are all free and equal and independent in the land, no one will be able to live in safety. And we are here to fight it, and we are very convicted in this fight, because this is the only way we can live still in this land. We can promise our friends and family that they will have a future, but it's also, as Rula said, it is out of solidarity towards the Palestinians that live in Gaza and the West Bank. We're proud to say that yes, we're fighting in solidarity with them and for them, but it is also the self-interest of all the people that live on the land, and it is a fight of self-interest as well.
I'm Palestinian, but I'm not a citizen of Israel. I always get this question, actually, personally. Why would a Palestinian who is not a citizen of Israel support the work of standing together, given that your theory of change is change from within?
Okay. Why should, no, it is a very good question, actually. It is very much good because when we go abroad, when we go to the US, when we meet different people in the same room, different communities can sit down, and there is different point of views of how people see what's happening and what they desire, for things to happen back home. And some of them have this very abstract kind of way of how they see our lives, because they don't really understand our reality. And others have, can be more messianic ideas of what should be happening to all of us. Others don't really have an opinion. But when we look at what Standing Together is doing right now, since the 7th of October and even before the 7th of October, our work as a movement is a work within the society that we live in. Okay? And yes, we live in a society, in a country that is called Israel, and that country is the country that has that power in between Israel and Palestine. It is the country that decides a lot on the lives of people living in Israel and Palestine. And in order to have real change in Israel and Palestine, we need to change people's minds and the politics within the hegemonic force, which is the Israeli society. That is the place that we work in. If we think that something will change because maybe somebody will wake up somewhere and say, this is the time we will save Palestinians and Israelis, they are mistaken. The only way that we can really change our lives is only when that hegemonic force, again, the Israeli society, understand that the occupation must end, this war must stop, no more siege on Gaza, equal rights to everybody who is living within Israel, and then when we achieve that, we can have real change in the place that we live. And if you want to see a change, you should be supporting a movement that is working toward changing the politics from within that society. Because it is a society. And when we sit down and we want to talk, we need both sides. If a peace deal will be signed, you need partners, and the partners will be Palestinians and Israelis. So yes, a lot of the work that must be done and should be done is work within the society that we come from. And we are a movement that is working since 2016 to change, to build a new paradigm. And that is why you should be really supporting us, because we are one of the movements and organizations that is working day by day to change the politics from with that hegemonic place.
We have 2 more questions, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. We will ask you, first and foremost, you've managed to keep standing together after October 7th. Can imagine that, that was not easy. We know of many organizations here that failed to do that. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you experienced in the height of the pain, the trauma, the shock, and then what were some of the things that you did that really contributed to staying united?
It's a tough question because it's daily work, and honestly, it's fragile. It is fragile. Bridging 2 parallel realities that are drawn from the same reality and experiences that can sometimes never meet is a very, very challenging work, and it's daily. Just try and picture that. But if you're in Israel right now, sometimes, as I said before, you can be in the same building in Haifa. It's a mixed city, right? It can be a building where 2 families will be Palestinian, 2 families will be Jewish. You can be the Jewish person waking up in your apartment in the morning. Everyone will go directly to their phone. You turn on your Instagram and you will see stories of mothers of hostages that are still held there in Gaza. You will see people crying in a funeral of a soldier that came back dead from either south of Lebanon or from Gaza. You will see protests of Israelis demanding and crying for the government to bring back the hostages and stop cracking down on democracy. And this will be your experience. This will be your reality, and it will exist. And in the apartment below, there will be a Palestinian waking in the same morning, touching their phone, and they will see mothers crying, shouting their lungs out because the entire family was killed by a bombing of Israel. They will see rebels in Gaza. They will see children with no limbs, and that will be their reality, and that will be their experience. And somehow, both of these realities will exist in the same time, sometimes in the same building. And we are standing in the middle. We are trying to be the bridge, to bridge this huge gap, to bring those communities together, out of the understanding that we insist on, that this exists and this exists. This pain is real and this pain is real. And that the way, the path that we're offering is a one that will bring something good, some solution to both of these people. And it does not come without anger. It does not come without the discussion of who's suffering more, because it exists. It does not come without the need to always correct your path and correct yourself. It does not come without tears. We cried a lot since October 7th. We even came to places where it was a big question of how do we have one rally? One rally. We always publish our content in both Hebrew and Arabic, but it's the same message, right? It will be just translations of each other. And how do we have the same message, the same rally, putting Palestinians on stage and Jews on the same stage, bringing those two communities together and holding this package. And it is tough. It is extremely tough. And the only kind of, kind of suggestion, kind of lesson that we keep on telling to ourselves is to remember that as much as we all pay different prices and lose in different ways from this reality, we are working very hard to gain the same shared future for all of us. And it gives us the power to say, this is the goal. Let's remember that this is the goal. And here as well, I believe so many people can agree on what reality they want to see. And they can work together towards this reality. If they will say, we agree on those things, and maybe we don't agree on other things. But if you move away from the language, if you move away from the terminology, and you say, we need to see a reality where all Palestinians are free, all the people in the land are equal, all the people, and including the Jewish people on this land, are safe, and yes, ceasefire, and yes, bring back the hostages, you're able to create a discussion and a movement that is around the solution you want to see in reality, and not only about the sides or the kind of languages you want to pick.
So we've heard a lot about the hard work that you're doing in Israel. And we've heard little snippets about, what can we do here as a community in the U.S. abroad. So can you tell us a little bit what we can do to support your work?
Yeah. So this is something we don't know how to do in a good way, but we need you to donate to standing together. That is the first thing, okay? I'm saying it. Also, especially, Arabs, we're not good in asking for money. But standing together is a movement that has been growing since the 7th of October. We've been growing with activists, but also with staff, with people who can listen to us. Just something, we haven't said, since the 7th of October, we've become our social media as a movement, and people, leaders in the movement, we are the #1 social media within, political organizations or even political people back home, which means we reach tens of thousands of people each and every day. Sometimes you can reach 500,000 and even million in just one thing we put on our social media. So a lot of people listen and see what we do. They may not agree with us, but they see our message. So in order to be able to continue the work we do, especially in the years to come, we need money. So the first thing you can do is donate to us or talk about us to friends who can also donate to Standing Together. That is the first thing, money. It is good, it is important, but you can also do other things. Right now, you will have Trump for 4 years, and we're going to have Bibi for two more years. And at least, he secured his own government for 2 years. And there is a very big alliance and strong one between both of these supremacists, Bibi and Trump. What we need to do is to redraw the us. Who are we? Who are the people fighting right now, and for what? Because these two people know what they want. They care about their politics, their own lives, their wealth, and not ours. And they will destroy everything that many people have worked for a long time. So we need also to build a partnership between different communities in here, and that is your job, to build new alliances within the same community, different communities, because the next 4 years are going to be hell. And I'm saying it, it's not going to be easy. So we need you to organize more people within your communities to work together, so we can also have an alliance with you to be able to stand in the face of the next 4 years of Trump and Bibi. That is the second thing. And the third thing I always say, because the polarization became so huge after the 7th of October, never give up on people. Community organizing is nagging people, is talking to them again and again and again and again, and trying to convince and going out and doing action, not just speaking in one room, but going outside and doing action and having a strategy and understanding what do we need to change. We can never give up on people, because eventually we are the ones who have the power to really make a difference, to really make a change, to really push forwards and towards. And yes, it takes time. Standing Together has been working for 9 years. But imagine if Standing Together was not a movement and the 7th of October happened. Maybe a very different discourse would be going back home and even here. So organize people, never give up on people, because we are the ones who know what we want and what we need, and we are the ones who have the power. Yes, believe in it, we do have a power.
Just two practical things. One, as Rula said, we do need resources, we do need donations, and you have a purple brochure. I hope you all got it. There are two QR codes. One is to join our program of monthly giving, the Friends of Standing Together. We have 3,500 registered monthly sustainers, people that are donating every month, and this community is growing, and this is a very, very effective way to support our work. The second QR code is for a one-time donation, also an amazing way to support us. The second thing is, if you really want to organize here, if you want to build a new us, look at this amazing chapter of LA Friends of Standing Together. They're sitting here on the stage. They're sitting here on the stage. They organized this evening. They're bringing the voices of both Palestinians and Jews and people that are not from the land but care about the land. And this is something to join, really, something to join, something to say this builds the new story, but also the organizing here on the ground that can allow us to bring our communities together and to really create change in the local level, in the national level. And these years to come, we will need you guys here as partners, and you will need us as partners, because we need to also share the experiences, learn how to fight the far-right populists that took control of our lives. So please join the local chapter of LA Standing Together.
Thank you so much. So we don't have a lot of time. We're a little bit over our program for questions.
We don't have much time left. We started a little bit late, and then we talked. I don't think we have.
Okay, so we'll have time after. We'll do mingling. You're welcome to, create a conversation around you. Rula and Alon-Lee will continue their work. If you have other questions about LA Standing Together, come talk to someone in a purple shirt. There are people around. And thank you again to Rula and Alon-Lee for your amazing work.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. I'm back. You heard them. They said Los Angeles chapter is the best. Yes. Yes. 400 people on our WhatsApp group, 2,500 people on our Instagram group, and we're all volunteers. Nobody here takes a penny. Great job, everybody. I want to say this to the camera. Standing Together headquarters, don't worry. Los Angeles is behind your back. Okay. While the stage is being set up for our music session, but I don't see the people setting it up. Hagar, where are you? Okay, so I'll fill you up with, they're connecting. Okay, so I'll fill you up with few stuff. I want to thank everyone who liked, commented, shared about Standing Together Los Angeles on social media. I see some people sharing. Thank you so much. Here's the code to donate to Standing Together and to follow our upcoming events. It's also on the brochures. Yes, peace. Did you see the yes, peace signs that they printed and they put everywhere? Yes, let's normalize the word peace. It's a good word. Yes, peace. Let's try. I say yes, you say peace. Yes. 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 Amazing. I can be a rapper. Oh, we were done? Okay.
We can, I think, right?
You ready?
Oh, well, maybe not.
I'll fill you with more stuff.
We are. No,
It's ready? Okay.
just like, you're in the way.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you, Adnan. My name is Hagar. I will kind of talk about what we've been doing for the past year, and then what are we looking forward to, and what can you do? So we'll start with a video that one of our steering committee people made of the past year. So you're welcome to watch it. Thank you, Simon. Wait.
Its way here to UCLA, right in between the Palestine Solidarity Camp on one side and the pro-Israel camp on the other. I witnessed a group of people who identify with standing together. This group started chanting, "In Gaza and Tel Aviv, all children deserve to live." And I saw something absolutely breathtaking happen. People on both sides started to clap and started to say those words. That's the de-escalation voice in the space.
Palestinians and Israelis for peace. Take a flyer.
We have a part to play in this, and that part has to be bringing people together.
There is one thing this time of great despair showed us, is that we all feel afraid. But if we can feel these feelings together, it must mean we can also feel feelings of hope together, feelings of change together, feeling of partnership together, feeling of wanting to have a better future for all of us together.
In Gaza, in Tel Aviv, all the children want to live.
All right, so this is all thanks to you. You know, everyone who came here, everyone who's been with us this past year. It was a very difficult year, but we're together. We put a drop, an important drop, and yes. And I will start with saying that in the US, many people say that peace is you know, it's naive and it's not taking a stand, especially after October 7th. It's just like, oh, you're not picking a side, you just like something weird in the middle, which for many of us from the land is very odd, because it's pretty radical. So we did make a lot of waves this year. Yeah, we even had some people threatening us. So even if we're smaller than, you know, I don't think we're smaller. I think maybe our voices are softer from the violent ones, but it definitely makes waves, and we should keep speaking up and doing whatever we do. So yes, there's a little slideshow. You can just press and I'll speak about it. So as you saw also in the video, we were mentioned on CNN by Sharon Browse. You can keep going. We were on Fox News. Some more news, I don't remember which ones, and then some more KTLA, Los Angeles Times, Forward, Daily Bruin, the UCLA newspaper. And this is us, you know, in rain and in sunshine, you can just keep going. We were there, people saw us, some, you know, shouted at us, but who cares? And we got great conversations. Rain, yes, purple rain. So yes, this is our community. We're also at USC. This is the dialogue committee, and okay, all right. So now it's good. Okay, now so what can you do if you want to be a part of this? Which, if you're not convinced, let's talk later or talk more to Rula and Alon-Lee. Anyway, there are different ways you can be a part of it. You can either just be a member and join events like these, or you can also join a committee. We have lots of committees. Let's move this so you can see everything. All right. So these are just some of them, because if you have a skill and you have an idea, then we can just make it happen. Yes. So I just want to explain about some stuff. First of all, it's not here, but in the winter, this semester, we're gonna open a Standing Together UCLA club. What? Supporters of Standing Together. Yes, we're not standing together, we're supporters of. Important. And if you go to UCLA, please check it out. If you go to a different university, you can maybe talk to Mikey or Elia and ask them how they opened the club, and maybe you can, start your own club at a different university. This is one thing. We also started talking with a lot of leaders around town, building partnerships. If you know people, if you're a leader of a community, talk to us. We would love to partner with you. Let's see. I don't know. I feel like we're out of time. But anyway, I just want to emphasize something that Alon-Lee said. We need to move people, okay? So we need to work together. We need to speak up. And we need to create the reality that we want to see. So thank you all so much for being here. And Adnan is going to explain a little something about the hierarchy in our organization while we set up the stage. So fun. Yes.
Yes. We are grassroots, right? We're not professional. We're not well-funded. We don't have staff. So forgive us if we're not so much organized. And that's why we need your help to help organize with us. She said, look, all the social media, graphics, event planning, dialogue in the diaspora, if you want to be a dialogue facilitator, mental health and wellness. We want sports people. Give us some exercises. Let's go play volleyball. Someone organize that. I'd love that. Absorption. What's absorption? New people. Welcoming new people, bringing new people. Administrative work, coordinators, video editing. Simon, thank you for video editing, and Lior. Music, outreach, documentation, all are great. And now we're having the dessert for the night, the last song.
Joey, can you turn this off?
There must be another way. Oh, sister, your eyes tell me all my heart really needs to know. Oh, sister, so dear. You and I are here, sharing our voice that is true. And when I cry for the both of us. My pain has no name. And when I cry to the merciless sky and say, there must be another way. There must be another way. عينك بتقول رح يجي وكل الخوف يزول. بينك إصرار إنه أنا خيار نكمل المسار مهما طال. لأنه ما في عنوان وحيد للأحزان. مهدي مدى للزمان جديدة. There must be another way. There must be another way. There must be another way. דרך ארוכה נעבור, דרך כה קשה יחד על האור. עינק בטחול, כל רחוב יזול. And when I cry for both of us. My pain has no name. And when I cry to the merciless sky and say, there must be another way. והדמעות זולגות זורמות לשווא. כאב ללא שם אנחנו